Welcome, Amaris and Joe, and thank you for coming back to us again and again to acknowledge and applaud your, I suppose, your work and the publication of the report, and also the extraordinary work of the members of your group too. It's an extremely helpful resource for us, and I also want to thank you too for your perseverance. I know that you've had some ongoing, I think, probably meetings in the background to keep this process moving, and I'm most grateful for that, and I hope that you're successful in this regard. I did speak last time when you were here, but I do have a few more things, I suppose, to add subsequent to the passing of a bit of time, and I'd like to begin with just referring to the fact that myself and Senator Quinn did put forward or has published a motion last evening. It's in the order paper for today that says that Seanad Aaron calls on the government to establish immediately the implementation body recommended in the report of the Working Group on Seanad Reform 2015, and that the implementation body immediately begins to liaise with draftspersons to develop a Seanad Amendment bill that reflects the spirit and text of the report, as well as carrying out the other responsibilities that you recommend in your report in that section on the implementation body. And I would hope that both our sessions on statements will be resources for this group when it is established, inclusive of, it's great to see here too, the opportunity today of people reflecting on the draft bill, comments on that as Senator Bocek has just done, since we didn't really have it in front of us the last time. But as I said, I do hope that these statements will be resources for that group. Otherwise, I think these sessions are simply talking shops. It's what people said no to in our past referendum debate. They didn't want the old Seanad, notwithstanding the remarks of Senator O'Brien there earlier in terms of the reforms that have taken place and and I suppose the quality of the work that we do here. But we don't want these sessions to be talking shops. Neither do I think the people. I think if our words here can't feed into the implementation body for this report, then we're simply right now playing out the old Seanad right here in the present and right now. Senator O'Brien, my second point today is Senator O'Brien did refer to this in his remarks and also in the order of business this morning in relation to announcements being heard in terms of what the Taoiseach was doing today. I woke up this morning to hear that the Taoiseach would be briefing opposition leaders on his views or his decisions regarding Seanad Reform and the establishment of an implementation body. And I wondered all day whether that was happening or not. And now it sounds like it is, and of course I welcome that. But I want to know, why did we find out about this after RTE did? Just once and for all, I am hoping that we could have some open government, especially in this effort to reform the Seanad. So to abolish the secrecy, why is it so hard to get information on what is going on, especially by those who have been so involved in the process of Seanad Reform and its retention? So my next point is that as I said, I'm welcoming the announcement. It sounds like it's now true, like Senator O'Brien and maybe others. I hope that our leader might be on this body. He wasn't on the working group, although, of course, the working group did excellent work. And I think his comments, for example, this afternoon, as well as when we had the session before, are very reflective, very helpful in terms of the work that this body might do as it goes forward. I also hope, as our motion says, Senator Quinn and I, that it gets to work immediately, that they use as a prime resource the bill that was published along with your report, Dr. Manning and Mr. O'Toole. The bill drafted by Brian Hunt, no finer draftsman could most of us find, and to take into account our words and to bring the bill then, or the heads of bill, to a committee in early September, to be enacted before the end of the term of this government. I don't at all think that that's impossible to do. And I largely don't think that that's impossible to do because we have had so many discussions and debates in relation to the lead up to the publication of any bill. That's not to say that we still don't have to tease everything out. But of course we can do that. Of course there would be time. I do think that it would be possible. And I have to say that sometimes I question whether or not, if people are putting forward whether or not there is that sufficient time. Is that somehow still an underlying resistance to ultimately the change? I don't think so, because I do believe my colleagues here want that reform as much as I do. But I just don't see why there should be any reason that we wouldn't have enough time, given all that has come into our commentary and our debate in relation to reform up to this point. Votes for the diaspora, I'm in favor of that. And if we had doubts, I know there's a lot of things to tease out about that. Your own group did a lot of that. Some of that is in other reports feeding into it. It's great to hear some of the comments now. But if we had any doubts before the referendum, this past referendum, about whether we should have votes for the diaspora, and Senator Bacik has just referred to this, I think, how could any of us resist this now? Hashtag home to vote. That just still makes me feel, quite emotional. Hashtag home to vote. People who are away do want to be engaged, but I'm also aware, and again, Senator Bacik refers to this, to all those who were so deeply disappointed that they couldn't come home to vote because they'd immigrated longer than 18 months ago. So there is a problem with that too, that restriction. So why can't the Seanad lead on this issue? Why can't it be the government's first demonstration of a genuine engagement with the diaspora? And I see no reason either why the working group's recommendation of an online register of voters and the downloading of ballot papers could not be implemented to facilitate this deepening of democracy. And I applaud you for your efforts to go on to engage, a very extensive research piece in relation to that, and a demonstration of how that, how you could move forward in doing that, giving us confidence that it could actually work. As you know, I'm originally from the United States of America. I still vote there. I download my ballot paper. I register, I ensure that I'm ongoing registered an online way, and I post my vote in. It works. It's worked for many years. It's not that big of a deal. What might be a big deal is, how do we get it installed in here and making sure it works, et cetera, and your work in terms of the working group has demonstrated that we should feel confident that we could move forward in that. I have just one or two more comments. With regard to the vocational representation in the Seanad and the need to reform this, by virtue of opening up the nomination process, and of course the one person, one vote to most seats in the Seanad. And I welcome all of that. I did that earlier. I agree with the working group's statement. You say in your report that currently the way we have, the way our nomination process and voting process operates is that it fails then to realize the constitutional ambition to create a largely vocational chamber which represent a diversity of views, minority voices, and specialist experience. So I agree with that. But I also listened closely to the remarks of Senator Mooney and others last time we chatted, last time we had a session about this. And I want to say here that, I suppose maybe in putting forward that view, one does question whether or not this could be a critique of the current members or past members in their performance of vocational representation. So I listened closely, Senator Mooney, to some of the things you were saying. I don't think so necessarily. And indeed, Senator Mooney and many others, but not all my colleagues, demonstrate, I think, an exceptional performance in that regard in terms of representing the vocational concerns of the panel that you stand on.
1 minute, Senator.
Thank you. So I think this is a criticism of the system of nomination and election, not necessarily of the members and the individuals who work out of that. And it's the system, then, that should be opened up so that we have as wide a range of candidates as is necessary to reflect the complexity and diversity of modern life. And so I think the working groups, and finally, just in this regard, I think the working group's recommendation that the level of knowledge and the practical experience required of candidates in the Constitution be defined in legislation is a good one. So in conclusion, again, a great thanks to you both. Are we having an implementation body? Sounds like we are. When? Will the Taoiseach speak to us? Will the Taoiseach speak to us, senators? Others have raised this. There's still time, I think. How can the government go to the people next time around without reforming the Seanad? There's no excuse. I don't think there should be any more delays. We can't have any more talking shops. And to let, I'm saying to government, let our people see that your legacy is reform rather than resistance to reform.
Senator Quinn.